Welcome back, and in this segment we will be talking about the influence of Islam on Western civilization, especially that the Arab scholars, they were the ones who translated the Greek histories, the Greek science, in addition, of course, to being to excel in astronomy, astrology, medicine. They were the first to be able to calculate the circumference of the Earth. They were the first to be able to invent the astrolabe and more. And through their inventions and the translations they did of the classics of the ancient world, the Europe of the Middle Ages came out of its darkness to reach its Western civilization. And I'm happy to have with me Egyptologist and researcher Mr. Bassam Shammaa to tell us more about his latest researches in that field. Welcome with us.
Welcome to you, and thank you very much for having me, and peace be unto everybody.
Mr. Bassam, we are used that you always make surprises and give us new information that we didn't know before. So what's the new this time?
There is always new studies, and there are always new researches. And actually, what happened to a person like myself, who's modestly reading history for over 30 years, that I'm still getting surprised at how the Muslim and the very, very into science Muslim scientists reach what they reached. And if I started by, for example, inventions, how Al-Jazari, a very best example of a researcher and a courageous man, and also a person who studied other cultures, like you started in your introduction, they did not have any problem with studying Greek science. And the Greeks didn't have a problem studying Egyptian science. So it's like that. It's like Egyptian, Greek, Muslim. And everyone came, not only that they studied, but they also corrected. Like Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, for example, the very famous man of light, the study of light and the study of rays and the study of the eye anatomy. And how he corrected, Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, this genius man, how he corrected the Greeks of this business of, is it the object that throws and sends a ray to my eye, and my eye receives it so that it can recognize it. This is a chair, this is a lady, this is a table. Or is it the opposite? Is the table or my eyes are sending those rays? So Hasan ibn al-Haytham did not only invent, he also corrected the Greeks in a very crucial point in the science of light and the science of the anatomy of the eye. Going back to Al-Jazari, because he's my favorite, I have to say, Al-Jazari invented more than 50 inventions, one of which has got 2 documents in the world, one outside Egypt and one inside the Museum of Islamic Art in Bab al-Khal in Cairo. What a beautiful honor for us as Egyptians to actually carry the history of this man, Al-Jazari. Al-Jazari is from a place called Diyarbakr. Diyarbakr is almost South Turkey, if you like. And he was an amazing inventor in the automata, in the automatic stuff, in the dynamic stuff, in the stuff that moves without touching, by filling water, by grinding gears, by moving small statuettes of cows that drinks from the water and then make a sound. Also fun stuff like a musical band that works on its own automatically. But the most important, in my point of view, for Al-Jazari's invention was the automatic clock. Now, we are talking a good 1100s, beginning of 1200s, when he accomplished his amazing book, or his amazing manuscript, which is the book of ingenious inventions, Kitab al-Hiyal. Right? And al-Hiyal here is not the Hiyal, the tricks. The Hiyal here is the Hiyal, which is the scientific inventions. Now, in this book, in this manuscript, we found, for example, the automatic water clock. We are talking a good 800 years almost from now, and we're talking about automatic clocks. The elephant clock, the automatic elephant clock, which he made it in an elephant because he was impressed by India. and then the carpet on the body of the elephant because he was impressed by Persia. And then he puts a gentleman with a beautiful turban on his head, that's Salahuddin, or one of the Arab Muslim leaders or the Muslim leaders. Salahuddin was a Kurd. And then we see a beautiful, in one of the drawings, a beautiful peacock at the top, or a beautiful phoenix, or something that looks like a falcon. Some people are saying this is Horus. So he is impressed by the Egyptian falcon. And then he uses two beautiful machine-like working, automatic machine-like working, to take the ball in its mouth in the form of a dragon. And that's Chinese. So the elephant clock is actually a United Nations invention, which proves that the Muslim scientists had no problem being impressed by others and saying it, 2, taking from others and correcting, 3, teaching the other what they did wrong. And I think that is science. That is science to us.
Now, when we talk about the Arab scholars, we have to go back to the Abbasid era and the House of Wisdom, or Dar al-Hikmah. It's one of the most glorious eras for scientific research. So would you tell us a bit about that place?
Of course, Harun al-Rashid, al-Ma'mun, al-Amin, the Abbasid, this part of Baghdad, before and after, and Dar al-Hikmah, or the House of Wisdom, when it was the greatest collection and gathering of people who are interested in learning about others as well. In the building, there were people who were interpreting the manuscripts, and from all religions, from all sorts of countries, were gatherers in this place so that they can introduce. I think maybe that was a turning point in the history of the Abbasid Caliphate, and probably the history of the world at that time, because that's when the European and the Greek and the Roman and the Egyptian and all of this reached Baghdad. Now, when we talk Baghdad, we are talking Baghdad, the city of science and the city of luxury as well, because all those beautiful buildings and all those beautiful palaces, which gives you an idea how the Muslim world was economically flourishing in the most fantastic way, to the point that I read the other day that the word Baghdad, which we use in the streets, in the slang, or in the streets of Cairo and in Egypt and in Arab countries, when you say, oh, you're wearing gold and you're wearing diamonds, or you are living in a huge compound villa or something, you are living in Baghdad. And from there came the word from Baghdad, because Baghdad was well known all over the world of that. And by the way, there is nothing wrong of living in luxury if you are all living in luxury and we are all enjoying it. What's wrong with that if it's on the correct way of Islam? And here I have to mention that some of those Greeks, like for example, Abocrates or Abocrat, the famous physician of Greece, and Galenos, to the point that you will be amazed to know how modest those Muslim inventors and Muslim scientists were, and doctors and physicians. If you were a good doctor, if you were a good physician, you would be called Galenos of the Arab. You are the Galenos of the Arab. It's just like when you are trying to see the football player, you look like, or you play like Messi, or you look like Ronaldo. To the point that now you are not even saying that. You are saying he is better than Messi, he is better than Ronaldo. We're talking about Salah, for example. Well, if we want to compare, that was more or less the same idea, that those scientists went over and over until they reach up at the top of the civilization. And from there...
Well, this is my question, Mr. Bassam. If we get indulged in the history, in the Arab history, you find that there were victory, there were glory, there were leaders, scientists. Why all of this knowledge and why all of this science and why all these victories are not known to the younger generation now? Why these are not here?
You will be happy to know that I'm going to talk about what I modestly do around the country here, is that you will be happy to know that when I was lecturing about Muslim scientists to 6 and 7 and 8 years of age, and the bosses of this organization were a little bit, oh, you're going to talk about the Muslim scientists to 6 and 7. Don't you think this is, as if they were trying to say that? I said, no, just wait. Because we're going to say it in the form of a story. I have Marwan, 10 years of age. A couple of days ago, I met him and they showed me the notebook, and he drew the elephant clock that he saw in the Islamic Museum in Bab al-Khalq. That's a very complicated clock. Let me tell you, that is an invention that shocked the world. And here we have a 10 years of age Egyptian young man who drew it in color, being very impressed by Al-Jazari. Now, I'm listening to, for years now, I'm listening to children coming to me, I want to be like Al-Jazari. I want to be like Ibn al-Shatir. You all know that in 1973, here is a good story that you reminded me of. In 1973, they found the papers which were shifted from the work of Ibn al-Shatir, dealing with the movement of the planets and the movements of the stars and all this business of the celestial kingdom, if you like. And that was where? That was in the possession of the very famous Polish man who, him and Galileo would be the number 2 people all over the world in the history who studied the celestial kingdom. Apparently, the Polish scientists took from Ibn al-Shatir without saying. Here is one reason why, until a great deal of effort were made in the last, let's say, 10 years to acknowledge the world of those scientists. Abbas ibn Firnas, when I'm lecturing about Abbas ibn Firnas, I always notice that people think that he fell and he killed himself, hitting the ground on one of his attempts of the soaring or the flying. But that's a very wrong story. Abbas ibn Firnas did not die hitting the ground. Abbas ibn Firnas succeeded in flying more than once in the desert before his famous 2 attempts in Cordoba, one in Rassafa, which is a district of Cordoba, and one from the beautiful minaret of the great mosque of Cordoba. The 2 famous attempts, but before those 2 famous attempts, we would like to tell the people that there were several attempts made by Abbas ibn Firnas, and they succeeded. He flew, he soared, he actually navigated the sky. A man who succeeded in over 10 minutes before the Wright brothers by hundreds of years. And before anybody who participated, everybody participates. I'm not saying they didn't do anything. But I'm saying at least we have to say that Abbas ibn Firnas succeeded. Now, when he fell, he did not kill himself. In one of the attempts, he actually injured one vertebra. And from there, and he was almost 70 years of age. How courageous is this man? I mean, never mind, let's not discuss the science here for a minute, and let's discuss the courage of a gentleman who's almost 70 years of age, and he is jumping off a minaret, a high minaret, or a hill, on one, and then again, and then again, until when he fell, he injured himself, yes, but he did not die. Why? Because he actually fell slowly. And people are saying now that this is the invention of the parachute. Okay, they say Leonardo da Vinci did that, did the parachute drawing. Fine, I'm not saying anything. And he invented the helicopter, but hold on for a second. The man fell off a height and he went down. Maybe he was not thinking of inventing the parachute, but that's the idea of a parachute, that you fall from up to down very slowly so that you don't kill yourself. So Abbas ibn Firnas was not only a scientist, but he was also a courageous man who is a good example of anybody who wants to reach the top of science. And here is the surprise. Abbas ibn Firnas had a lab in Andalusia, because he's Andalusian, as you all know. He had a lab who had made a planetarium made out of glass because he was excellent in cutting crystal glass. Very small number of people know that about Abbas ibn Firnas. And families used to take their kids and children in Andalusia. Let's go and visit the lab of Abbas ibn Firnas, because we are going to see, wait for this, thunder and lightning. Simulation of thunder and lightning, 800, almost years and years. We're talking 800s AD. That's Abbas ibn Firnas. Now, 2018, you all saw Sophia, right? When I tell you Sophia, you're directly going to tell me the famous robot, the famous lady robot. And of course, she became famous here in Egypt. And the robot and this and that and the moving thing and the automatic and the reply and all of this. No, thank you. Because I can show you a document in color, very well preserved, of the first robot statue moving automatically, made by Al-Jazari. Automatic. And it was also said that he invented the ablution machine that will drop water from a peacock, enough water to do the movements of the evolution. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it only will pour 8 times. And that not only an invention for ablution, for wudu, but also it is good for environment to keep the water from going in waste, which we are suffering from in the 21st century.
And they also excelled in medicine, like when we talk about Abu al-Qasim al-Zahrawi, the father of medicine, and of course in alchemy as well. Now, this is important because that would lead us to the idea of scientific research during the early Islamic era. Would you explain to us the keenness of the Muslim caliphs on scientific research at the time, please?
Thank you very much. You remember this business of, if you are going to interpret this book for me, I'm going to give you the weight of gold and all this beautiful kind of, yes, as a scientist, as a reader of history, I would like to be appreciated. I'm not talking gold, and I'm talking if you give me a piece of paper saying thank you, Bassam, for what you did, of course this is going to be a huge push to me. So were the caliphs interested in science and in moving science towards the top? Of course they did, or else we wouldn't reach Baghdad, we wouldn't reach Cairo, we wouldn't reach the library of Al-Quds. Can you believe that? How many people know that in Al-Quds, in Palestine, in Al-Quds, we have the most amazing library of very, very famous and very rare books. Okay? And of course, Gharnata and Andalusia. And how about Fez in Morocco, where a lady, we're talking about how you are trying your best to do your best. A lady with the name of Fatima al-Fihri. Fatima al-Fihri, everybody, is a lady who her father left her a huge sum of money. She took the money and she went to Fez in Morocco and she built a mosque. And she fasted all through the building. And she decided to tell the people, when you are building this mosque, we are going to build it from the same environment. It's an amazing lady. They used to call her the pious Fatima, al-Taqiyya, al-Wari'a, the pious. This lady, the mosque became called Al-Qarawiyyin, same name till today. Then this mosque became to be extended into a university. We're talking 800s AD. Now we're talking about the first university in the history of mankind on planet Earth, made by a Muslim lady. Why Fatima al-Fihri is not the best Cannes movie? Why her movie, her life story is not taking Oscars? Why there is no episodes in Ramadan for Fatima al-Fihri and her beautiful life? The first university as you know it, to the point that who went and passed by Al-Qarawiyyin University? Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun, the famous social guy, the man who invented the social science. علم الاجتماع. Who else went? You will never believe. A man with the name of Sylvestre. Sylvestre, to the people who do not know Sylvestre, who went to Al-Qarawiyyin University, he is the Pope of Rome from 999 to 1003 AD. Pope of Rome went and studied in Fatima al-Fihri's university. A Muslim lady. Tell me about top of the civilizations. Tell me more about Al-Idrisi, talking of research, when Roger II, the king of Sicily, said, come. King Roger was very interested in geography. He himself was an amazing geography guy. So he invented Al-Idrisi. Al-Idrisi went and stayed in his palace, 70 maps in 15 years, 1-5. What was the result? The result was the first globe. The first globe. We all know the globe that we put it on our desks now and we push it like that and it goes round and round and round like Father Mohandes. No, thank you. Nobody knows Al-Idrisi. Everybody knows Father. No, we know. This guy made us laugh. Thank you. And this guy we should know. We should know Al-Idrisi. We should know that this man invented the first silver globe. And how about Al-Biruni? Yes, encyclopedic character or what? Al-Biruni. We're talking 900s, 1000s AD. Now, you explain this to me, or anybody who's watching us now, explain this coming comment. Al-Biruni is telling us that there is a dry land after the sea of darkness. بحر الظلمات. Where is بحر الظلمات? We hear it like in, I don't know, in theaters and stuff. بحر الظلمات, the sea of darkness. What is the sea of darkness? Sea of darkness is the correct expression of the Atlantic Ocean. A dry land after the Atlantic Ocean, El Biruni is telling us, he's telling us about the Americas. How did he know the Americas? How did he know that there is a dry land after the Atlantic Ocean? How about Muhyiddin Rais? Muhyiddin Rais drew a map that is still today on the Facebook. Everybody is thinking, how did this guy do it? Muhyiddin Rais drew people with cattle in the United States or the America at that time, in North America. How did he know? How did he know the shapes of the people? How did he know the color of the skin? How about Zheng He, who his boats and fleet, a Muslim with the name of Zheng He, a very famous guy, who his boats and fleets were like dragons in the ocean because they were so huge that the workers and the sailors on board of one boat used to use lanterns and used to use flags to send messages because it was so big that you are not going to be able to hear the other guy.
Mr. Bassam, it's very interesting to know about the Islamic history and the scientists, and that we have a great history that we should be proud of, but unfortunately we ran out of time. Mr. Bassam Shammaa, an Egyptologist, one of the famous ones, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, and that brings us to the end of this segment, but we'll be back after the break, so stay with us.